Welcome back to the SaaS Playbook, the podcast that gives founders and leaders in the B2B space a real platform to unpack what they're building, why it matters, and what the journey looked like before they got here. Just honest conversation and people in the thick of it. This episode is brought to you by Hera Digital, revenue architects who build sales engines B2B businesses actually need, from top of funnel all the way down to conversions. Head to heradigital.com.au to find out more. Today's guest is someone who never went to university, taught himself how to build and develop on YouTube, and has ended up with some of Australia's biggest universities as his clients. Go figure. He's the founder of Sonder Sites, building custom web solutions and AI-powered integrations for businesses that are done settling for off-the-shelf software. He's also got a lot to say about where AI is actually delivering results versus where it's just noise. Tim Sullivan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thanks for the intro. And Jenny, I usually say to the universities I work with that I didn't go to uni after I've already started working with them. So for all those unis that do want to work with me, maybe one day I will go to university, but at the moment I haven't gone yet.
Well, did they make you go to site?
Yeah, it's great. I've never been there before. So it's amazing to see all these amazing universities. I wish I did go to uni when I was younger, but I just didn't make that decision when I was there.
Yeah, look, that means you can say that you do go to uni though.
Yeah, true. I've been to one. I just haven't paid the fees.
Yeah, I mean, what we talk about specifically doesn't necessarily require you to do so. I guess I wouldn't say it should be a priority. Obviously, you have your own journey. I never went either. And there's got to be some type of genetic makeup as to why people don't typically go to uni, but they have this entrepreneurial spirit, which we could dive into. I just wanted to take a couple steps back, Tim. You built your business by giving as much as you can without expecting anything back. And you've said that's generally how Sonder Sites grew. Where does that philosophy come from? And what has actually meant in practice for how you've built the business since then?
I think if I'm being fully transparent, I think that comes from when you first start out as an entrepreneur, because you're doing what you love so much, you probably don't think you should be getting paid what you're getting paid. So you want to over deliver for your customers. So you want to give way more to them and then maybe they'll pay me. And I think that's how I started out. And then I think that as I went further down the track and started doing harder projects and bigger projects and getting paid more money, I was like, well, I have to keep the same like imbalancement where I'm giving them like 10 times more than what they're getting for their money. I literally think it came from that. And initially in the first couple of years, that was super hard because I would give them, months of my work and I'm only getting paid for like a week or two. So I'm in the negative. And, I'd tell myself it was learning and it was, growing and all that kind of stuff. But I guess that's also really good for people starting out because then when you do get to a point where you're like, I have to charge more than I'm comfortable with, that's a really good growth phase for people to go through. But that's where it came from. And that's where the name came from too. Like Sonder being the word Sonder means the realization that everyone has their own world that's like complex and has its own moving parts. And essentially it's empathy. So once you realize that with every business and you can put yourself into their shoes, you can then bring your outside knowledge and then change their business and be a bit of a disruptor in their space. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Well, after having a few conversations with you, Tim, what really sort of is poignant for me is, and especially in the tech SaaS space, what I'm finding is no matter how fast innovation does go within AI or all the fancy new tools, people are still humans at the end of the day. It turns out that the people in tech and SaaS are the most human-centric people I've met in all of my careers. And it's really weird because it's kind of this juxtaposition between really high tech and actually human element, right? And I feel like Sonder Sites is at that intersection of the two. But I do agree, especially when you're going out on your own for the very first time. You do as best as you can, but you also want to over deliver. And then you start to really experience those frictional points in growth where you're like, okay, these sets of problems are actually way different from when I started. But going back to dinosaur ages, I remember when I first started, I was like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. But I think there's value in saying no as well.
Yeah, definitely. But it's so hard to do that, especially when you need to pay the bills. You'll say yes to everything at the start.
You're like a consultant that just says yes to everything. But then if you are feeling like that growth, you have to obviously grow. Everyone wants to grow in terms of their business. I think you inertly feel that first before you actually put action towards it. I'm like, okay, now I need to start actually physically changing the way that I operate because this is just it's not working. So I'm sorry to bring this up again. You never the juxtaposition between not going to uni, same, but yet one of your biggest clients are universities. There's something almost poetic about it. But what do you think you learned by skipping the traditional path that you wouldn't have picked up sitting in a lecture theatre?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer because I feel like I learned a lot of bad things as well as a lot of good things. But I honestly believe in fate. Like I think everything happens for a reason, and people say that a lot, and you can't really argue it because like things have happened and then they've shaped who you are and where you get to. But I think, yeah, I didn't go to uni at the start. I got into the degree I wanted to get into, but it just didn't feel right. Like I got the score, I was like, I'm going to do this, and then it just didn't feel right. And all my friends were going to uni, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I just want to like working straight away, earn some money, and then maybe do some traveling, and then yeah. So I literally got a night. I went from work like from high school to a night shift from like 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. at a cake factory. Because I was like there, I was determined to make some good money. I was super hungry, so I got into this job, and I was only like 18, and everyone else there was in their 30s, and it was night shift, and it was low socioeconomic area. There's a lot of people doing drugs and stuff. So I got within like 3 months, I became a manager, paid more money, and then after about 6 months, I was like, I've saved enough money. I need to get out of here because I'm kind of surrounding myself with people that haven't got the same values as me and the same goals. So I left there and was in the workforce, and I traveled for a month. And then after like 3 weeks, I was like, I don't really feel like I deserve this holiday. I want to go back and do some work and like get some life experience. So I came back to Australia. And I think I had like 8 grand saved left over, and that's how much it costs to get a personal training certificate or Cert 3 or Cert 4 at the time. So I when I got a PT course, because I was like, what can I do? I can like go into a gym and train people to be like cool people there, and it's like healthy and whatever. But I didn't want to just go into a gym. So I remember when I was at school, we had a gym at our school, but you couldn't use it unless there was a teacher in there. So we had this idea of going to a couple of the private schools in Melbourne, and they all had gyms. They all had fancy gyms. And we were like, can we open your gym up? We'll be the PT, the strength coach. We'll have the insurance, and all the kids can come in, and we'll make sure they've all got workouts, and we'll make sure they're all safe. And one school agreed to do it, which was called Camberwell Grammar. It's called Camberwell Grammar. It's like a really like nice school in Melbourne, in Victoria. And we just opened up at lunchtime and after school, and every lunchtime and every after school, there's like 50 kids in there. So we had to get more trainers, and then all the other schools found out about it. So they all wanted the same service. And I ended up running that business for about 10 years, about 9 years of having all these trainers at all these schools and essentially running my own first business, having to deal with all these principals and business managers of these private schools, which, if I'm being honest, they're just really good businesses if you think about it. Like you got new customers every year, they're paying top dollar. There's no offense to the schools, but there's no guarantee you're going to get a job. So there's no, but anyway, they're great businesses. So I was learning a lot about these businesses and how they operate, and how having to negotiate with these, business people that are really good at their jobs. And that kind of ran during the day. But at nighttime, I was like, I was doing, I was building websites just for fun because I loved building websites. And this is back in like early 2000s. And I'll finish this story. I know you didn't ask my whole life story, but when I was at these schools, I had every single kid come up to me all the time, and they're like, "Tim, what should I do? What should I be when I'm older?" And I'm like, "Why are you asking me? I'm just like a silly personal trainer." And they're like, "What do you mean? You run this business, you get to play your own music, you have to do weights all day. It's like the dream job. How'd you find that?" And I've at the start, I struggled really hard to answer that question because it's a really hard question to answer. Like, what should I do with my life? And I came up with this answer that I still use to this day. Anytime I meet someone who's young and impressionable, and they're looking at what they should do with their lives, or even older people, I just say to them, do the thing that gives you goosebumps, and whatever that is, do that thing. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, the thing that you like get super excited about and you lose yourself in. And if you speak about it right now, you would get goosebumps on your arm. And they're like, well, I love gaming. And I'm like, start developing games or start building games. Or I like umbrellas, or I like music. Like, go and do that thing, because if it gives you goosebumps, it's almost like a sign from somewhere that that's the thing that makes you feel alive. And if you go and do that for your job, you'll do it better than anyone else in the world. And eventually someone will pay you really good money for that. And yeah, that's how I didn't go to uni, and that's how I do what I do today. Yeah.
So I'm back and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to remember to reply to all this? But I think what kind of stood out for me is I had a really similar journey too. So I left school, did the whole like, when they prepare you, okay, this is the subjects you need to do. Here's life story in my part. Subjects you need to do. You're like, okay, I'm like, oh yeah, graphic design. Like that's my jam, right?
Yeah.
Never pursued it. Didn't even finish year 12 actually. Went to work. 6 months later, became the manager and then working at HJ's actually. Then became the manager, and then I was managing people who are thrice my age, right? And that's something that you learn very quickly to adapt to. And that's sort of what carried through my entire career is like I know how to deal with people. And that's a key component, which I feel like is a bit of a lost skill nowadays. But that's something that I think is very poignant, especially when it comes down to the technology space. Like you're not really going to have that skill set anymore. You probably don't need it until a certain point within your business. But what I'm trying to say there is there's similarities in particular type of business owners and there's similarities between different types of people, particular types of people being entrepreneurs. And it generally is cut in a very similar story. And I just find it so fascinating from a psychological perspective. Were we born with that? Or did we collect that somewhere along the way? Or is it like in our nature or is it our nurture? Like I have all these questions. I'm like, someone should do some studies around entrepreneurship. I'm sure there is. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting to really sort of like dive into it really, really like finitely and really like understand that, hey, there's something here. But you did make a point that really landed. And that was from our first conversation is that you can't be an expert in something that came out yesterday. The noise in the AI space now, like I mentioned before, but a lot of people claiming expertise in something that is still being figured out in real time. What do you think separates the people genuinely making AI work for their business from the ones just talking about it?
Well, this is the interesting part, right? Because it's like the ones who are really making a difference, they haven't got time to go and make a video and tell everyone about it. And that makes you like kind of question everything, right? Because if you're really the best at what you do, you don't need to tell everyone about it because they just know. But at the same time, you want to spread this cool stuff that you're finding so other people can use it as well. But that's also inefficient because like, they're two different roles, right? Like it's the TV ad versus the movie. Well, I don't know if that's a good, use of it, but, like, I wanna go out and, like, tell people about this stuff, but I don't wanna go out and tell everyone I'm an expert in the space because you really can't be like, I think that isn't it you have to do 1,000 hours to be an expert at something? I think you can be, like, on the cutting edge and you can be creating stuff, but to do it properly, even with AI, you still gotta, like, plan the video and then film it and then edit it and then even make sure it goes viral. Like, there's a lot of elements to that, and then if you're doing all of that, you're not up to date with AI because it changes every hour. So it's like, yeah, I find it really hard when people say that, and I've even found it hard myself because I'll go to a university or I'll go to a business and I'll implement, like when OpenClaw first came out, I was helping people set it up on like a virtual machine and just getting it set up on their Discord or on their Telegram. And they're like, Tim, you're an expert. We'll pay you like 3 grand to do a speech about AI. And I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to position myself as this AI person because I think it'll get outdated really fast. And it wasn't coming from an ego place or like low confidence. Like I've got super high confidence around it. I just didn't want to, yeah, do that. And then when I see other people like that are positioning themselves saying the AI leaders, I'm like, unless you're like Sam Altman or you're someone who's actually like creating it, um, you can't be a consultant doing that yet. I think you can be like a problem solver. Like I think the way I'm trying to angle my business is like a niche, you're a problem solver, you're a consultant, but you don't use the tech. Like I see there's heaps of like Claude Code meetings and meetups in Melbourne, or there's like Claude Code certificates, but that's really hard as well because I often chop and change between OpenClaw, ChatGPT, Claude, Manus. Like it's hard to put your name to something because you're going to change it, and then if you're changing all the time, it's hard to trust someone in that space. So I think yeah, it's a tricky one to answer that one. Yeah.
I also agree on a lot of points there. But I feel personally attacked because we just did like a content day the other day because we're like, oh, well, you need to create a brand. And I'm like, we're stuck between influencers and creators and like businesses, right? And I'm like, where do we sort of sit in that regard? But I have fun doing it, so it's not too bad for me. But I also think there's no way you can be an AI expert either. Like, you can't. By the time we finish this podcast, Tim, something new would be released, right? And like
Yeah.
you said, you can't be expert on something if you have your fingers in different pots and pies, right? There's no way that you can put 1,000 hours into one tool to only move forward. And in a lot of these AI experts is they're actually using AI for the AI. So therefore they're actually not using their cognitive function, like their brains to actually produce these results, right? So really, are you an expert or are you just an expert prompter or an expert tool intra tool user? Really, that's all it is.
I think they're expert marketers. They're expert, like they're expert YouTubers because they're the first to get the content and then spit it out straight away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's just my own personal view on it. Like, I think if you ask someone who's an AI expert right now, I'm sure there's 5 people they are the expert space, but they've just got people's attention. So and that's at the end of the day, that's actually like I've got a couple of apps that I've got, and I've got a couple of guys and girls that I work with that build apps and sell apps, and they tell me it's like it's not you don't have to be the best app, you just have to be the best marketed app.
Hmm.
Like we know one that's it's a food app, so it's called Resimi. So
Oh my God.
if you know those guys,
Their marketing is on point because I get stuff from there all the time. So now, Tim, you work with universities, you're fielding inbound from clients, you've had to turn away, and you've got a pretty clear sense of where you do your best work. If you had to describe the client that gets the most out of Sonder Sites, who are they and what are they usually trying to solve when they come to you?
I'll start with Shopify. So Shopify, the best out of all the ones we've worked with over the years, they've either built their own Shopify site and grown it massively, and they know in the back end, like there's some things that are not working right. Like they've got 1,000 apps, the theme's slow, and their conversion rate's low. And they want to get someone to come in and have a look. And we'll generally just come in and have a look and go, all right, I will give them like a list, like delete these apps, you know, delete, maybe get a new theme, or maybe, um, like just delete some of these elements from your theme and do these 10 things. And they'll go off and do it themselves. And then they'll come back to us for like a full rebuild or specific sections they can't build on their Shopify site. That's one type of client that we've had the best kind of results with. Like people that are like probably doing $1 million a year and they want to get to that 5, 10, 20 upwards kind of thing. They're just growth strategies. And that kind of highlights the stuff we do. Like we're doing a lot of the harder integrations. They might have like multiple systems that don't talk to each other, or they just don't understand why they're losing like sales. And I guess the advantage of working with an agency as of today, because this might be very different in a couple of months' time. But as of today, the advantage of working with a Shopify agency or any agency in particular is they have someone like myself on my team. We're looking at multiple industries, so we can see who's getting big wins and we can transfer that across to them if that client allows it. So like we might have a client in a skateboard space that's if I go back a couple of years, they've installed Afterpay and their sales have gone up like 40%. So we'll say to our other customers, hey, these guys are doing this. Do you want to check it out and see if it's going to work for your industry? And this is and then they'll all do it and they'll all win. So like if one of them wins, they all win. And then vice versa. Like if something's changed, like Google Shopping isn't working, we'd let everyone know. And it's kind of like it's almost like a community, I guess. It is a community. So that's one way that works really well currently. And then in the uni space, that's interesting because well, obviously I didn't know about universities or like going to them as a student or as a teacher or um, an employee, but they all have very similar issues. Like they have big teams. They're slow to make decisions because there's a lot of moving parts and they have old software that doesn't talk to anything. So to bring in new technology is really hard. But if you can do it properly, if you can start off really small, you can kind of spread into the rest of the university. And that's what we've done with RMIT. So got in there, had some little wins to start off with, and then built trust and then obviously universities all talk to each other. You build trust and then they can kind of spread that out. But yeah, there's also a lot of fun that comes with that because universities have teams and ecosystems of people that are specific to software. And if you're coming in with new software, you might be moving people out of the business. So you create enemies as well. Not bad enemies, just like, they're just like, rude to you in meetings or whatever. I'm not saying that's RMIT, but that could be any business. But it's hard when change management is really tricky and people don't like change. Like it's a known thing. And I'll never forget, I had this meeting once with the Australian Defence Force and at the time I was trying to introduce virtual reality into the space. And there was this guy, I don't know if he was like a major or a colonel or lieutenant or whatever their names are. And he said to me, and he was very scary, this guy. He's very direct, but he said, with change, we know it can't be 20% better or 50% better. It has to be 200% better than our current system before we're going to make any changes. So that's why it's interesting when you talk about technology. Like when the BlackBerry was out, it owned the market, and to change from a keyboard to a touch screen is a massive change. But it was like 200% better. So I think if people take that into account, if you're going to like bring change to a lot of people, as long as it's 200% better, which is a big jump, you'll be able to get people across the line. But it does come back to how you introduce it, and like starting with small change and having wins that the other people can own. Those wins is a big one. Like, yes, it was my idea, but I'm happy to let my ego die and be like, oh, that was a great idea. Why did I think of that? And then, yeah, yeah. But yeah, starting really small. And then I think if you're making money for people and you're saving them time, you're always going to start creating friends. Make money for people, save them time. And then, yeah, all of a sudden you're a lot more likable, especially in big university spaces.
Yeah, it's interesting because universities, and just as you mentioned before, if you boil everything down, everything is a business. Banking, finance sector is a business, which we don't talk about apparently, even though I was in banking for a while, so I know. Everything is a business. Everything has sales, everything has conversions, everything has business management component and a profit and loss. Everything is, unfortunately, and universities is no different. But with the university sector, particularly, or education, is that it's an industry that hasn't been touched really for centuries, much like the health industry in Australia. So when we go in and we look at certain components, so softwares particularly, it's a hard sell. Like you said, it has to be 200% better, right? But it's like, well, how do we know what is better if we don't know what the baseline is in the first place? So getting your foot into the door in the first place is no easy feat. So hats off to you, Tim.
Right. I'm happy to tell that story if you want. Take
Yeah,
away
go for it.
the illusion.
Go for it.
I don't know if this will work for other people. This is how it worked for me. But essentially, I had a virtual reality company, and I started that up before COVID, or around COVID. It was all about replacing Shopify stores, physical stores, with virtual reality stores. And we had investors, and I had put all my money into it. And essentially, met with all these amazing developers in Melbourne. And we used to like meet up each week, and we meet up at different areas in the city. And there happened to be one week where we were meeting at RMIT in the city, and it was my turn to do a talk. And it just so happened on the night I was doing a talk, the whole senior leadership was there on the night. And my talk was on the future of retail and the future of shopping. And I'm just thinking about how incorrect I was with virtual reality, but I believed it at the time. And I believed it purely because Meta and everyone was throwing their money at it. And I was like, they can't be wrong. But anyway, I was presenting the future of retail and showcasing VR and what it could do. And I think I do a really good presentation. I think one of my skills is a really good presentation. So I talk fast and I mumble, but my presentations look really nice. And did this big presentation. And then all the RMIT leadership came up afterwards and they said, Tim, can you come and present to my students? Can you present to this? And all of them said that, but only one of them actually booked a meeting with me. And so I went to this meeting, RMIT. I'm like, yes, I'm going to get virtual reality into RMIT. And there's like 10 people in the room, and they're like, we love this. This is great, but we can't do this because our website's crap. It's on Shopify and it's just shit. Even though I had this virtual reality company, I'd still been doing Shopify for many years, and I'd like paused it to do virtual reality. So I said to them, hey, I do Shopify. Let me just fix your Shopify site first, and then we'll do virtual reality. And so I started fixing their Shopify site, and then that just grew so massively and took over everything, and VR started dying. So I paused the VR agency. I still believe in VR. I'm coming back to it one day. But RMIT took off, and then Shopify was already growing massively anyway. But I started getting more uni clients. All my other clients kept coming back to me as well for Shopify. But because of that sidestep, I wasn't there to sell them Shopify. I was there to sell them, and like I was just there presenting what I loved. And this comes back to the Goosebumps thing. Like I think they wanted to talk to me because I so passionately cared about VR that it was like oozing out of my skin of like, why is this guy so excited? Like we want to talk to him. And even though I think my thing with Goosebumps is I get really excited about new technology. I get really excited about like change. I absolutely love it. And when I'm on a roll with it, I get goosebumps talking about it. That's my thing. And I've merged that into Shopify and I've merged that into development and into business. But my point of difference is that I really care about it, and I would do it for free if I could. And when I'm in a retirement home one day and they allow me to have a computer, I'll be building websites for people when I'm like 95, and I'll be like, we can do this now. I'll still get goosebumps from it even then. But that's how I got into RMIT, because I was passionate about VR and I saw that. And then I had a chance of luck, but I really went into it and drove it. And then it was just a really good win. RMIT had some massive wins and still have massive wins to this day. And then I leverage, obviously working with RMIT, and it's been a amazing thing. But the funny thing is, I didn't actually feel like doing that speech that night. Because I live in Kyneton, so it's about an hour away from Melbourne, and I wasn't going to go, but I end up going anyway, and end up being like, I'm so happy I did that speech because it like changed the trajectory of my business. Yeah. Yeah. Changed my life. Yeah.
I think there is something to do with fate there, as we spoke about before. And I feel like you almost get like the universe pulls you in a certain direction for a particular reason, whether that's a lesson or a complete change of trajectory. But I love change. And because the reason why I love change is because my brain learns everything so fast, not a quick flex, but it learns so fast, it conquers it. And then I'm like, okay, what's next? My brain just cannot sit still. With the inception of AI. And that's why I love the space, just because it changes so much and there's always something to learn. So I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, yeah, this is my thing. This is my jam. So if I'm going to start, if I want to code in the corner, like that's my happy, that's my goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty lucky that we've found it. Some people go 50, 60 years old and still don't really know what that is, unfortunately. But yeah. One last question for you, Tim, before we wrap up.
Yes.
As Sonder grows, how are you thinking about distribution and sort of that side of business? And what does building that engine really look like for you and Sonder?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So like just from the team talking and like looking at what's changing and how things are changing, because we've had to change so much and we've seen this coming. We know that it's getting to the point where people will just not even have websites anymore. They'll just say, can you just like get 10 more sales for me to Claude, and it'll just find 10 customers and they'll just check out. So we know that everyone can build. We know everyone can build really good sites. Like sites that we would charge 10, 20 grand for now are done in half a day with Claude, and fully hosted and like ranking on Google, and they can be done like for free almost. So it doesn't come back to who can build anymore. It says who can distribute properly. And we work with paid guys, we work with SEO guys, we work with every type of marketing person. And well, not every, I don't know, because it could be new marketing people that just spawned that, a bot, or there's something else, like a baby bot of something on Maltbot. I don't know. But it's comes back to the thing that I don't like, which is it's not necessarily the best person. It's the person who has the best marketing. So what is the best marketing? What makes someone buy? As of right now, if you had to ask me as of today, the 25th of March, 2026, the thing that is getting the most amount of sales that we see is UGC, like fake AI reactions on TikTok. Like, I know that's probably too much, but so you see an app and you see someone go, wow, if only I knew about this 5 years ago. And that's a fake AI video. And then it goes to the demo of someone's app. That at the moment is getting the most amount of downloads, like cost per click. And then these people are getting that app and they're staying on a SaaS. Like, so they're paying the $10 a month. That is the biggest like winner at the moment. So what that is in a nutshell for people who don't know what I'm talking about, going viral on a social media platform is the number one selling thing at the moment. So if you can go viral, however that is, it could be from creating content. The way most people go viral is they see someone else going viral and they copy that for their niche. So you see someone at a bakery and they throw a pie at someone's face, you do that for your pizza shop, or you do that for your accounting firm. We all know people are on their phone at nighttime. Maybe not you because you're in a corner, doing Claude Code, but most people in the world aren't like other entrepreneurs. Like they generally, after they finish dinner, they just scroll TikTok for 5 hours. So that's the new advertising space. Well, it's not new, but that's where you get people now. And you have to, like any marketing, you just have to find a way that feels real to them, even though it's trickery and snake oil. It's trickery. But if you just have to have the best products, market it the best, and be on the latest trends. But that's where the distribution is. It's going viral on some kind of social media.
So is it safe to say we're not going to catch you on TikTok dancing anytime soon, Tim?
It's funny because like I've got an app that does that, like makes people go viral, and I'm like, well, I should be viral, but I've never gone viral. I've helped. Like, it's funny, like you were saying before, like the chef or the plumber that the house is leaking. Yeah, like I haven't got a viral video. You'd think I'd have a viral video, but that's just what I see. I see the trend. Doesn't mean I actually know how to do it myself. But I know how it works, and I can tell you how to do it. But yeah,
It's probably because you don't have time, Tim. Let's be honest. Like you're
yeah.
probably focusing on more important things, but just drilling that down. It's really understanding that attention is the highest form of currency. So therefore, when you look at if you can hold someone's attention, it's gone down to 6 seconds now or something like crazy, maybe even lower. I think it was
For
three
you and
seconds.
me, it's like 2 seconds, all right? For you and me, it's 2 seconds. For the average person,
And when it comes to like, I used to be a serial scroller though, to be honest. But before I found what I really enjoyed doing, but now I'm like, you couldn't pay me to scroll anymore. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like when you boil it down, if you could hold someone's attention for long enough, you've cracked the code essentially for your niche or your business. And I think that's like a good takeaway is like, how do I make my business or niche relevant and hold their attention for longer than 3 seconds? Because that's what social media has done for people now. And it's interesting because there's so many things that go into business now that is not traditional for anyone. But I think when we look at the Australian market, we're still pretty far behind when it comes to a lot of, I think there was a report that came out yesterday regarding 65% of businesses are still held with Australian residents who are 65 years or older.
yeah. But what are the stats on people who actually do these reports? Like, who's doing these reports?
I don't know. I just thought, I was like, well, hang on. That doesn't really make sense. 65, I'm pretty sure they're taking their retirement. They're super and they're off in Bali somewhere, right? But that still tells me there's still a lot of reluctancy in Australia to adopt AI.
We're always 18 months behind. I reckon we're always 18 months behind. Like, I was an idiot trying to sell VR to an Australian market. And like, why would I ever do that when it's North America all the way? It's a great idea. The number one answer I got from every single business was, "We love it, but we'll wait until someone in America does it." Well,
Like, us Aussies always take the safe route. We take the back seat first, let someone run into the bushes and get hurt, and then we'll do it.
yeah.
But it's really interesting, like, because I have a few American clients, and it's so different to the Australian clients, like, so massively different, like, just the way they view things, the speed at which they want things achieved, but also they're more than happy to like, "Yep, you sort it out. Here's the cash. Send it," right? And I think it's just the way that how fast-paced America really is. But Tim, this one was a lot of fun. I think you and I could talk the back legs off a donkey if we were allowed the time. But the AI receipts, the university clients, the self-taught builder energy, I think a lot of people are going to hear this and realize they've been leaving money on the table when they didn't even know of. But links to connect with Tim and Sonder and learn more about what they do. I'm sure you've already heard it here anyway. But if you found it ready to stop guessing and actually build revenue engines, you know where to find me. If you want beautiful sites and other softwares and platforms, go find Tim. We'll leave all the links down below for you. But in the meantime, keep building, but meaningfully. Thanks for joining, Tim.